Food becomes chyme in the stomach. After chyme leaves the stomach via the pyloric sphincter, it enters the small intestine. The small intestine has three regions. The first region is the duodenum, about 10 inches long, where all types of digestion can take place and some absorption. The second region is the jejunum, and it is about 8 feet long. The jejunum absorbs digested nutrients. The third region is the 11.5-foot ileum, which can also absorb nutrients but contains more immune system components to protect us from incoming antigens. Inside the small intestine, it is not like the inside of a hose or straw. It has circular folds, like the mucosa has been scrunched up like a curtain on a curtain rod called plicae circularis. Looking at a slice through two circular plicae circularis folds, we can see projections of tissues called villi. Around each villi are rows of simple columnar epithelial cells that actually touch the chyme or the food inside the lumen. By adding mucosal area through plicae circularis and villi projections, the surface area increased from just a single 20-foot tube that's 3 inches in diameter to the surface area that is the size of a tennis court. That is amazing. The duodenum receives acidic chyme from the stomach. Although the food from the stomach has some protein digestion begun, it is nowhere near completely digested. The duodenum receives a number of secretions from different places to help digest fats, proteins, and carbohydrates, as well as deal with the acidity of the chyme. Bile from the gallbladder enters the duodenum via the common bile duct. Bile aids in the emulsification of fats so that they can be digested. The pancreas makes many different enzymes that digest fats, proteins, and carbohydrates. The enzymes from the pancreatic acini travel through the pancreatic duct to enter the duodenum. There are glands in the submucosa of the duodenum that secrete a bicarbonate buffer to neutralize the acidic chyme from the stomach. It brings the pH from near 3 closer to a pH of 7. If the esophagus had these glands, then there would be no acid reflux damage. Looking at a microscope slide of the duodenum, you can see the villi projections in the mucosa and the underlying submucosa, muscularis, externa, and serosa. The villi are rimmed with simple columnar epithelial cells, and goblet cells adhere to the lamina propria in the center of the villi. The submucosa is filled with a unique gland called Brunner's glands. These secrete bicarbonate buffer to neutralize the highly acidic chyme from the stomach. This protects the walls of the duodenum from the damage of the low pH. The muscularis externa contains both circular and longitudinal muscle to continue the peristaltic contractions, moving food along. In this image, we can see the villi, the muscularis mucosa, which acts as a nice barrier from the mucosal layer to the submucosa under it. The submucosa is filled with Brunner's glands. You won't see these glands anywhere else. From the website at Southern Illinois University, there is an image that nicely shows all the layers of the duodenum. The jejunum is where most of the absorption takes place. It has longer villi and more of them compared to other regions of the small intestine. This allows for maximal surface area to absorb nutrients from the digested food. The histology of the jejunum is the same as the duodenum, except it does not have Brunner's glands. The ileum is the last segment of the small intestine. It is the location where vitamin B12 or cobalamin is absorbed. Vitamin B12 comes from animal food sources like meat. It can only be absorbed when combined with intrinsic factor from the parietal cells in the mucosa of the stomach. Peyer's patches are regions of the ileum with clusters of lymphatic nodules. The ileum ends at the junction with the cecum, or first part of the large intestine. Because of bacterial differences between the small and large intestine, the food or contents of the ileum can only go into the cecum and not come back. The ileocecal valve is like a one-way trapdoor that lets food enter the cecum. The histology of the ileum shows less developed villi, as the amount of food to be absorbed is much less than in the jejunum. The main unique feature of the ileum is the regions of lymphatic nodules called Peyer's patches. These are distinct and obvious. There are lymphatic nodules spread all throughout the GI tract. However, only in the ileum are they found in such large clusters. The muscularis externa and submucosa are similar to other regions.